urban legends, folklore, unique history, whatever makes your town unique. We call them hometown tales because every town has one.
You might not remember from history class that Morristown, New Jersey was the capital of revolutionary America. This is where General George Washington had his headquarters during the war. In any war, you're going to have your fair share of strange and unexpected events. This particular war pitted the glorious British Empire against a band of colonial farmers who couldn't shoot straight. Guess who ended up winning? In wartime, when the enemy can show up on your lawn at any moment, you need a quick wit if you plan on getting out of any dangerous situation alive. And if it's the 1770s and you happen to be a 21-year-old woman surrounded by 6 pissed off and hungry soldiers, and you display grace under fire, that's the kind of thing that's going to turn you into a legend. That's how Tempe Wick, also known as Tempe, became a New Jersey legend. Just a few miles outside of Morristown is Tempe Wick Road. Unless you're going for a bit of sightseeing at Jockey Hollow, you may never travel this historic byway. Jockey Hollow is where the Continental Army was stationed throughout most of the war. At the time, there were about 1,200 of these cramped and drafty huts. The soldiers who lived in them were either starving or freezing, and had nothing except their patriotism to sustain them.
Well, the life of a Continental Army soldier in Jockey Hollow during the Revolutionary War, by our standards, would have been pretty poor. When you enlisted, you were promised certain things. You were promised a complete uniform at least once a year. You were promised food. You were supposed to get a pound of beef every day, a pound of bread every day. You were supposed to get vegetables. You were supposed to even get beer and rum. During the winter of 1779, 1780, some soldiers went 4 days without getting anything to eat, and they were reduced to eating things like bark off of sticks, shoes. Officers killed a pet dog and ate that. And of course, during the winter of 1779-80, their problems were compounded by the fact it was the worst winter of the 18th century.
The Wick family, who lived near Jockey Hollow, had more than enough food and money to sustain them, and Tempe was fortunate enough to spend her days riding her horse through the surrounding countryside. Though the enemy wasn't far away, she rode without fear, confident that the Continental Army was always just a few minutes away. But one afternoon while out riding, Tempe's fears come to life. She suddenly finds herself surrounded by 6 soldiers, who immediately grab her horse by the bridle. One of the soldiers says that her horse is exceptionally fine, and they'll be taking it back to camp with them. Obviously, this is not a matter for debate. So what's a Jersey girl to do? She smacks that horse in the ass and guns it out of there. The soldiers try to follow. They even take a couple of shots at her, but she's too fast for them. But there's a problem. The soldiers that wanted Tempe's horse were from our very own Continental Army. They knew who Tempe was, they knew where she lived, and they knew about the barn where she kept her horse.
The Army needs certain things to survive, but the people don't want to sell to them. So sometimes they would commandeer. During that bad period when the men are going days without food, in desperation, they just sneak out of camp and start stealing from farms in the area. The people complain to Washington, and he says, oh yes, this is wrong, we will punish them on the spot if they're caught. But then he also says, but you have to realize they're starving and they're doing it to survive.
Here's how a legend is created. When Tempe gets here, she doesn't go to the barn. In fact, she goes around to the back of the house to the back door. The only way out of this mess, the only thing Tempe could think of at the moment, is to dismount, grab the horse by the bridle, and go into the kitchen. Then through a hallway, into the parlor, and into the guest bedroom, where she hides until nightfall. When the soldiers arrive, they looked at the outhouses, they looked at the barn, they looked at the herb garden. No horse, no Tempe. Of course, Tempe couldn't go out to the barn to get an armful of hay. Likewise, she couldn't take anything out of the house that would lead the soldiers to believe that the horse was hiding in the bedroom. The soldiers came back on more than one occasion to get to the horse. The horse remained inside the bedroom, hiding, for 3 weeks. One horse, in a bedroom, for 3 weeks, eating nothing but Mrs. Wick's biscuits.
Versions I've heard, it was General Washington's horse, it was an American officer and his horse. The location of the horse is usually the most interesting. Most people have one set room in the house, and in the original version it was a spare bedroom off of the parlor. I've heard it's been in the house for a day, a week, a month, a year. The first version said the horse was in the house for 3 weeks.
Is it possible? Can you keep a horse hidden in your bedroom for 3 weeks, eating biscuits? We went to Belmont Park racetrack to ask an expert, thoroughbred trainer Pat Kelly.
It'd be pretty cramped in there, and there'd be a lot going on. I think it would be more of a problem for the people to manage all the, manure, and the smell might not be real pleasing in there.
One horse by itself makes 45 pounds of manure in a single day.
If you could figure out a way to get rid of everything that goes in the front and comes out the back, probably wouldn't smell very good or look very good maybe, but it could be done.
We tend to doubt it.
Not everyone believes in the legend of Tempe Wick and her horse. Regardless, kids read her story in school, locals drive down the road named after her. Tempe has become a part of Morristown. She's become a hometown tale.